Howdy, eighth graders. Mr. Masters here. Today's lesson is going to be pretty short and sweet, but it's just to go over a little bit some of your responses and some of the work that we did in the last class. I'm going to try to address some misconceptions if we had them. We're also going to write some more key points down or type them. Tip top type. So we were answering the question, why do Australians have such a high rate of skin cancer? Now, I have made you already understand this concept. We've already talked about this concept in this key point, so don't type this one down yet. Light carries energy that causes materials to change, right? And I gave you the example of the sunburn, right? Now, change can mean a lot of different things, right? Change can be either good or bad. Today, we're going to do a little investigation and see what exactly I mean by change. So I want you to start by writing this key point down. Key point number 3. When light hits a material being any object made of matter, the material can absorb energy from the light. So as you notice from the simulator, some possible things that light does when it hits objects is it can either reflect, which means it bounces. It can go through objects. We saw some of that. Also, it can literally absorb the energy from the light. So think of it as kind of like an energy sponge. Key point number 4, type this down. When a material absorbs energy from light, the energy causes the material to change, right? So when an object, it could be a person, it could be a thing, absorbs the energy from light, it doesn't keep the object the way it is a lot of the time. A lot of the time it causes that object to change once the energy gets absorbed inside of that matter. Let's look at the simulator right now to demonstrate this point. Now, I know that you've done this on your own, but I could have been a little bit more specific about something that you could have noticed besides just the fact that an object absorbs material. So I asked you to look at the simulator before and to pull up the genetic material. Now, genetic material, and you all should know what genetic material is at this point, is your DNA. It is the genes that make you you. We had a whole unit about this in the prior to us leaving. We talked about how genes make your traits and they make you, it shows the traits that make you you. So this is, I'm holding some of that right now, right? The specific genetic material that comprises and makes a human, any living thing. So I'm going to put that in the sample. I'm going to put the show energy tab on, and we're going to turn on the sunlight. Now we can see that the genetic material, the DNA, is glowing. But what I did not have you specifically look at is the little search guy at the bottom that says inspect here, which you can click on. So if you notice that, good for you. And if you haven't, now's your time, you can notice it, right? So we're going to inspect and we're going to see what change caused to this genetic material. So it looks like the genetic material effects is that, yes, it got more energy, right? If you're putting energy into it, that genetic material would have more energy, it would make sense. But also, it looks like the specific change that it caused is damage, right? We can see that the actual DNA, the genetic material got broken in this specific example. So there was damage to your genetic material. Now, as we talked about in the previous unit about mutations and changes to your DNA, a lot of this damage in itself to your DNA can have some pretty bad effects, right? So that might maybe lead us to believe that cancer is an option. But in any case, you need to, looking at that, you need to get down this final key point, which is this idea. When genetic material, which is your genes, absorb sunlight energy, it can cause damage to the material. It can cause damage to that DNA. It can cause it to break. It can cause it to not code correctly. Remember, DNA is code. It gives messages that allow specific proteins to be built that construct a living thing, right? And if the messages get damaged, the things that's constructed from the proteins is not going to be correct anymore, right? So make sure that you get that down. Now, the last thing I want you to do is I want you to make sure that if I've said anything to you or any of our key points today that have been enlightening, that have helped you understand this concept of what sunlight does to genes a little better, then you need to go, and I want everybody to do this no matter what. I want you to go back to uh, the last thing that I had you do on the computer, which was lesson 1.3, tab 4, where you were investigating genetic material. And I want you to review uh, what you typed down. What change to genetic material do you observe? So this person put the sun was pointing a different way when the object was pointing against it. I want you to, if you wrote something that is not specifically what we talked about with the genetic material, I want you to correct your answer, right? So I want to see something about the genetic material was damaged once it was absorbing energy from the sunlight. And then number 2, how is it possible for light to change genetic material? Include evidence from your answer and use the vocabulary terms light, energy, and absorb. This student wrote, it's possible for light to change because it depends on how strong is the material, and it will just depend on how it would reflect on it. Well, reflect isn't one of the key terms that we were using. Remember, absorb means to take in, right? So you need to give me a better explanation. I want you to check your explanations again, right? When objects absorb energy, it can cause changes to that object, right? And that can lead to damage within the object. This specific object is genetic material or DNA. So just go over this. When you are done doing this on the comment thread, Annalise, the comment thread is just the comments under my post. You can just put done, and I will come to make sure that check your answers to see if they are changed or if they're up to the level that I think that we should be understanding at this point. If you have any questions on feel free to leave them on the comment thread. Annalise, it's just the comments under the post that I put. Feel free to leave a question there. All right, well, and that's pretty much it. I'll give you a different assignment tomorrow, but make sure that you correct this one today. All right, have a good rest of your day. Bye.